I want to tell you about the night I became a ghost. Not dead. Ghosts are not dead. Ghosts are people who are still alive, but have removed themselves so completely from the world they belong to that the world stops looking for them. The world holds a funeral in its mind. The world says she is gone. The world moves on. And the ghost stands in a grocery store in a small town 600 miles away, buying diapers and formula and the off-brand cereal that costs $2 less, and the ghost is not gone at all. The ghost is just tired, and terrified, and 23 years old, and pregnant with 3 babies who belong to the most dangerous man in the country. My name is Isabella, or it was. For the last 6 years, my name has been Marie. Marie Connolly, a name I pulled from a headstone in a cemetery in Vermont, because the real Marie Connolly died in 1989 at the age of 4 days old and never got to use her social security number, and I needed one that would not trigger a search. That is what desperation teaches you. How to borrow from the dead so the living cannot find you. I need to tell you this story from the beginning, but I also need you to understand that the beginning is not where I met Dominic Russo. The beginning is the moment I left him. Because everything before that, the love, the passion, the way he looked at me like I was the only real thing in a world made of smoke, all of that was prologue. The story started the night I put my hand on my stomach and felt 3 heartbeats that were not mine and understood, with a clarity that arrived like a blade, that if I stayed, those heartbeats would become leverage. Weapons, targets, currency in a war I did not start and could not survive. Dominic Russo. If you are listening to this and you know that name, your body just reacted before your mind did. Your shoulders tightened. Your jaw set. Something in your gut shifted the way it shifts when you hear a sound in an empty house at 3 in the morning. That is what his name does. It is not a name. It is a climate. It changes the atmosphere of any room it enters. He ran everything. Not a neighborhood. Not a borough. Everything. The Russo family had been building their network for 3 generations, and Dominic was the generation that perfected it. He was 31 when I met him. He was beautiful in the way that dangerous things are beautiful. The way a storm is beautiful when you are watching it from inside a house, knowing the walls will hold. He had dark eyes that never blinked when they should have, and hands that could hold my face like I was made of something precious and hold a man's throat like it was a problem that needed solving. I loved him. I want to say that plainly because everything that comes after only makes sense if you understand that I loved him in a way that rewired my nervous system. I loved him in the way that makes intelligent women do unintelligent things. I loved him in the way that my mother warned me about and my friends could see and I could not, because love like that does not let you see it clearly. It lets you feel it, and feeling is not the same as seeing. Subscribe right now. I need you to subscribe because the next thing I tell you is the reason I ran. And the reason I ran is the reason a 6-year-old boy looked at the most feared man in the city and said, "Why are you glaring at my mom?" And if you miss any part of this story, you will not understand the ending. Subscribe and stay. I found out I was pregnant on a Tuesday. The doctor said twins. The ultrasound the following week said triplets. I sat in a clinic in Midtown under a fake name, looking at a screen showing 3 heartbeats, 3 bodies, 3 futures growing inside me. And I felt 2 things simultaneously. Joy so overwhelming it made my vision blur, and fear so absolute it made my hands go numb. 3 children. Dominic Russo's children. 3 biological connections to a man whose enemies would use any vulnerability available to them. And there is no greater vulnerability than a child. Then 3 children. 3 small, defenseless, perfect human beings who would carry his DNA and his eyes and his name if I let them, and who would also carry the target that comes with all of those things. I knew what happened to the families of men like Dominic. I had seen it. Not in movies. In real life. Dominic's own cousin had lost a daughter. Kidnapped. Held for 3 days. Returned physically unharmed, but changed in a way that the word unharmed could not cover. She was 7. She stopped speaking for a year. She is 15 now and still sleeps with every light on. That was going to be my children's life. That was the inheritance I would give them by staying. Not money. Not power. Not the penthouse or the cars or the way Dominic's men called me ma'am with genuine respect. Fear. I would give them fear as a birthright. And I would spend every day of their lives scanning rooms and checking cars and counting exits and teaching them that the world is a place where people will hurt you to hurt your father. I could not do it. So I left. I left on a Thursday night while Dominic was in Chicago handling something I was not permitted to ask about. I took cash I had been slowly withdrawing for 2 weeks. I took a bag. I took the prenatal vitamins from the bathroom cabinet. I did not take photographs. I did not take jewelry. I did not take anything that could be traced or tracked or used to find me. I wrote him a letter. 3 sentences. I am leaving. Do not look for me. I am sorry. I do not know if those sentences were enough. I do not know if any sentences are enough when you are leaving a man who loves you in the only way he knows how, which is completely, possessively, and with the absolute conviction that his love and his control are the same thing. Subscribe right now. I am begging you. Because for 6 years I kept those 3 children hidden from their father. For 6 years I built a life so small and so quiet that not even Dominic Russo's network could find it. And for 6 years I told myself that I had gotten away, that the ghost had won, that Marie Connolly and her 3 beautiful children would live a normal, safe, invisible life. And then I took them to the city, and everything ended. Drop a comment right now. Tell me, was I right to run? Or did I steal something that was not mine to take? I want to know what you think. I need to know, because I still do not know the answer myself. I should not have gone. I know that. I knew it while I was packing the car. I knew it while I was buckling 3 6-year-olds into their car seats. I knew it the way you know a stove is hot while you are reaching for it anyway, because knowing and stopping are 2 different muscles, and sometimes the first one fires without engaging the second. My mother was sick. That is why I went. She was in a hospital in the city, Dominic City, and the doctor said it was serious, and my brother said you need to come now, and the part of me that had spent 6 years being Marie Connolly was overruled by the part of me that was still a daughter. I told myself it would be fast, in and out. 1 day, maybe 2. I would keep my head down. I would stay in the hospital. I would not go to the neighborhoods he owned, the restaurants he frequented, the blocks of the city that operated under his gravitational pull. I told the triplets we were going on a trip. Luca, the oldest by 4 minutes, wanted to know if there would be a pool. Marco, the middle one, wanted to know if there would be pizza. And Sophia, my girl, my only girl, my daughter who had her father's eyes and did not know it, asked if the city was dangerous. She asked that because she was Sophia. Because Sophia noticed things. Because from the time she could speak, she had been the kind of child who watched the world with an intensity that made adults uncomfortable. The intensity of a person who is cataloging information for a purpose she has not yet disclosed. She had her father's eyes. And I was beginning to suspect her father's mind. It is not dangerous, I told her. We are going to see Grandma. Why does Grandma live somewhere we never visit? Because it is far away. Vermont is far away, and we go there. Sophia, get in the car. She got in the car, but she gave me a look. A look that said, I know you are not telling me everything, and I am going to figure out what it is. A look that, God help me, was identical to the look Dominic gave people when he knew they were lying. Identical. The same angle of the chin. The same narrowing of the eyes. The same patient, predatory stillness. Subscribe. Do it now. Because what happened when I walked into that hospital with 3 children who look exactly like Dominic Russo is the moment my 6 years of hiding collapsed in approximately 90 seconds. Subscribe and do not leave me. We arrived at the hospital at 2 in the afternoon. I parked in the garage. I held Luca's hand and Marco's hand, and Sophia walked beside me because Sophia did not like being held. Sophia liked walking independently, which was another trait she inherited from a man she had never met. The hospital was large, public, busy enough that a woman with 3 children would not attract attention. I checked in at the front desk. I gave my mother's name. I was directed to the 4th floor. We took the elevator. The children were quiet because hospitals make children quiet, the instinctive lowering of volume that even 6-year-olds perform in the presence of a building dedicated to fragility. We found my mother's room. She was sleeping. I sat beside her bed. The children sat in chairs along the wall, Luca reading a comic book, Marco fidgeting, Sophia watching. 20 minutes passed. Normal minutes. Safe minutes. Minutes in which I allowed myself to believe that I could exist in this city for 24 hours without the past finding me. Then my mother woke up. She looked at me. She looked at the children. And she said, in a voice fragile with illness and heavy with the particular weight of a mother who has been keeping someone else's secret for 6 years, Isabella. My real name. Spoken aloud. In a hospital room. In Dominic City. I flinched. physically flinched. Mama, it is Marie. Isabella, I am tired of calling you Marie. I am sick and I might be dying, and I want to call my daughter by her name. Mama, please. They look just like him. All three of them. Every day they look more like him, and every day it gets harder to pretend they do not. Mama. He came to see me, Isabella. The room went cold. Not metaphorically. I felt the temperature drop. I felt the air change the way air changes when a door opens to a room you thought was sealed. What? Dominic. He came to the hospital. 2 days ago. He heard I was here. He came because he has always been respectful to me, even after you left. He sits with me. He asks about you. He does not push. He just asks. And I do not tell him anything, because you made me promise. But Isabella, keeping this secret from that man is the hardest thing I have done in my life. Harder than being sick. Harder than watching you disappear. I stood up. My heart was hammering. My vision was narrowing the way it narrows when your body shifts into survival mode. The edges going dark, the center going sharp. When does he come? What time does he visit? Afternoons. He comes in the door opened. I want you to understand something about this moment. I want you to feel it the way I felt it. I want you to hear the sound of that door handle turning and the hinge creaking and the air shifting and the light from the hallway falling into the room in a rectangle that framed a man's silhouette like a portrait painted by someone who understood that the most terrifying things are often the most still. Dominic Russo stood in the doorway. He was holding flowers. White lilies. My mother's favorite. He was wearing a dark suit. He looked exactly the same and completely different. The way people look when 6 years have passed, and the years have not aged them but sharpened them, refined them, turned soft lines into hard ones and patience into something that looks like stone. He saw me first, and the flowers stopped moving. His hand, which had been shifting the bouquet to his left so his right hand could close the door, froze. Mid-motion, the way a video freezes when the connection drops. His entire body suspended in a single frame. His eyes moved from me to the children. 3 children, sitting in a row against the wall. Luca, Marco, Sophia. 3 faces that were mirrors of each other and mirrors of him. 3 sets of dark eyes. 3 identical jawlines. 3 small humans who contained his genetics so obviously that denying it would have been like denying that the sky was above them. He looked at them. He looked at me. He looked at them again. And I watched his face do something I had never seen it do in the 2 years I lived with him. It broke. Not into pieces. Into layers. Layer after layer of composure falling away like paint peeling off a wall, revealing underneath it something raw and exposed, and trembling with an emotion so large it could not fit inside the expression he had been trained to wear. He said nothing. I said nothing. And then Sophia stood up. My girl. My daughter. My 6-year-old child who had her father's eyes and her father's mind, and I was about to discover her father's complete inability to tolerate silence when something needed to be said. She walked across the room. She stopped 3 feet from Dominic Russo. She looked up at him. All the way up. The way a small person looks up at a very tall building, not with fear, not with awe, but with the critical assessment of someone trying to determine whether this structure is sound. Why are you glaring at my mom? She said. Subscribe right now. I mean it. Hit that button right now because the next words out of Dominic Russo's mouth, the first words he ever spoke to his daughter, are words I will carry inside me until the day I die. Subscribe and stay and hear them. The room was frozen. My mother was gripping her blanket. Luca had lowered his comic book. Marco had stopped fidgeting for the first time in his life. And Dominic Russo, the most feared man in the city, the man whose name changed the temperature of rooms, looked down at a 6-year-old girl who had just challenged him with the confidence of a person who has never once been taught to be afraid, and he did something that no one in his organization had ever seen him do. His eyes filled with tears. He did not cry. The tears did not fall. They gathered. They sat on the edge. They stayed there, suspended, the way everything about this moment was suspended, balanced between what had been and what was about to be. I am not glaring at your mom, he said. His voice was barely audible. I am looking at her, because I have not seen her in a very long time. Sophia studied him. Do you know her? Yes. How? I loved her. Do you still love her? And Dominic looked up from his daughter's face to mine, and the distance between us, 3 feet of hospital floor, 6 years of silence, a lifetime of fear and regret, and the terrible arithmetic of choices made in the dark, all of it was in that look. I never stopped, he said. Drop a comment right now. Tell me what you are feeling. Tell me if you think I was right to run. Tell me if you think Dominic deserved to know. Tell me everything. And subscribe because part 3 is where the truth meets the consequences, and I promise you, on my children's lives, you are not ready. I need to tell you what happened next, and I need to tell you honestly, because I have spent 6 years lying, and I am so tired of it that the truth feels like setting down a bag of rocks I have been carrying uphill since the night I walked out of that penthouse with 3 heartbeats inside me. Dominic asked my mother's nurse to take the children to the cafeteria. He said it politely, quietly, the way he says everything. But the nurse looked at his face and moved immediately, the way people move when they encounter a force that does not need to raise its voice to be obeyed. Luca went willingly because Luca was agreeable. Marco went willingly because Marco heard the word cafeteria and translated it to food. Sophia went reluctantly, looking back at me over her shoulder 3 times, her dark eyes making a promise I could read perfectly because I had spent 6 years learning to read her. I will come back for you, Mama. I will figure this out. The door closed. Dominic and I were alone. My mother was in the bed between us, but she had closed her eyes. Whether she was sleeping or simply refusing to witness what was about to happen, I do not know. My mother is a wise woman. Wise women know when to close their eyes. Dominic did not shout. That is the first thing I need you to understand. I expected shouting. I braced for it. I set my jaw and planted my feet and prepared for the explosion that I had been running from for 6 years. It did not come. What came was worse. What came was silence. A silence so heavy that the room seemed to bend under it. Dominic stood by the window and looked out at the city he controlled, and he was quiet for so long that I began to wonder if the silence was the punishment, if he intended to simply stand there and let the absence of words do what words could not. Then he spoke. 3. One word. He said it the way you say a number that has just rewritten the mathematics of your entire existence. 3 children. Mine. Yes. 6 years. Yes. You took my children. You disappeared. You let me believe you were dead or taken or destroyed. You let me spend 2 years searching. You let me tear this city apart. You let me lose my mind, Isabella. I could not eat. I could not think. I interrogated every person in my organization. I thought someone had taken you. I thought you were buried somewhere, and I could not find you, and every night I lay awake imagining what had been done to you. Do you understand? Can you possibly understand what those 2 years were? I can understand. Because I spent those 2 years alone and pregnant with triplets, giving birth in a hospital in a town where I knew no one, raising 3 newborns by myself with no help, no money, no sleep, and the constant terror that your men would find me and take them. Take them? I would not have. You would not have what, Dominic? You would not have controlled every aspect of their lives. You would not have surrounded them with security that doubles as surveillance. You would not have turned them into heirs to an empire that kills people. I would have protected them. The way you protected your cousin's daughter? He flinched. I saw it. The full-body micro-flinch of a man who has just had the one wound he cannot defend pressed with surgical precision. Subscribe right now. Because this conversation between me and Dominic, this raw, bleeding, brutal conversation in a hospital room while our children eat cafeteria food 3 floors below us, is the conversation that determined everything. Subscribe and hear what he said next. You are right, he said. I was not expecting that. You are right about my cousin's daughter. You are right about the danger. You are right that my world is not a world that children should grow up in. You are right about all of it. He turned from the window. He looked at me. But you are wrong about one thing. You are wrong about me. You decided who I would be as a father before I had the chance to decide for myself. You looked at my life and you made a judgment and you executed a sentence and you did not give me a trial. You did not give me the chance to choose differently, to be differently. You just left because I was afraid. I know you were afraid, and your fear was valid. But Isabella, fear is not a reason to steal a man's children. Fear is not a reason to erase a father from his children's lives. Do they know about me? No. Do they ask? Sophia asks. What does she ask? She asks why she does not have a dad. She asks why other children have fathers, and she does not. She asked me last year if her father was dead, and I said no, and she asked where he was, and I said far away, and she said how far, and I said very far, and she looked at me the way she looks at me when she knows I am lying. Which is the same way you are looking at me right now. And she said, that is not an answer, Mama. Something broke in Dominic's face. Not anger. Something underneath anger. Something that anger was protecting. She is like me, he said. She is exactly like you. It is terrifying. The boys. Luca is gentle. He draws. He reads. He apologizes when he bumps into furniture. He is nothing like you. Something that might have been a smile ghosted across Dominic's mouth. Marco is chaos. He is loud and physical and fearless, and he broke his arm last year jumping off a shed roof because Luca dared him, and he spent 6 weeks in a cast drawing on it with markers. He is like my brother, Dominic said quietly. He is like your brother. We looked at each other across my mother's hospital bed. Two people who had loved each other violently and separated violently, and were now standing in the wreckage of choices that had seemed necessary at the time and now seemed like something more complicated. Not wrong. Not right. Necessary and devastating simultaneously. What happens now? I asked. What happens now is that I meet my children. Properly. Not in a hospital hallway with flowers in my hand and tears I am trying not to let fall in front of a 6-year-old who looks at me like she is deciding whether to trust me or interrogate me. She will interrogate you. I know. She is my daughter. Dominic, if I let you into their lives, what guarantee do I have that your world will not follow? None. I cannot guarantee that. I cannot guarantee anything. The world I operate in does not allow guarantees. But I can tell you what I will do. I will build a wall between them and my work so high and so thick that the only way through it is through me. And anyone who tries to go through me to reach my children will discover that the man they thought they knew is a fraction of the man they are about to meet. I have killed for money. I have killed for territory. I have killed for power. But I have never had a reason to kill that was worth the word sacred. My children are sacred, Isabella. And sacred things get protected differently than everything else. Subscribe. Please subscribe right now. Because what happened the next morning when Dominic Russo sat down across from his 3 children for the first time is the moment that broke me open. Subscribe. The next morning, we went to a diner. Not one of Dominic's places. A regular diner. Vinyl booths. Sticky menus. A waitress who called everyone Han. I chose it deliberately because I wanted the first meeting to happen on neutral ground, in a space that belonged to neither of us. In the ordinary world where ordinary people eat pancakes and spill orange juice, and do not worry about whether the man at the next table is carrying a weapon. Dominic arrived alone. No security. No men in dark cars. He came alone because I asked him to, and because, for the first time in perhaps his entire adult life, he was willing to be vulnerable if vulnerability was the price of admission. He sat across from us. Me on one side. 3 children beside me. Luca nearest the wall. Marco in the middle. Sophia on the outside, positioned closest to Dominic, because Sophia always positioned herself closest to whatever she was evaluating. Who is he? Luca whispered to me. He is someone I want you to meet. Why? Because he is important. Sophia was staring at Dominic. Staring with the unblinking intensity that I had long ago stopped trying to soften, because softening Sophia was like trying to soften concrete. She studied his face, his hands, his eyes. She processed him the way she processed everything, systematically, thoroughly, arriving at conclusions that she would announce when she was ready and not a moment before. You were at the hospital, she said. Yes. You said you loved my mom. Yes. Do you love her like a friend? Or love her like a dad loves a mom? The diner went quiet. Not the whole diner. Just our booth. Our small universe of vinyl and syrup, and the most important question anyone had ever asked Dominic Russo. He looked at me. I looked at him. And in that look was 6 years of absence and 2 years of searching and 1 night of running and 3 heartbeats that had grown into 3 people who were sitting right here, right now, in a sticky booth in a regular diner, waiting for an answer. Like a dad loves a mom, Dominic said. Sophia processed this. You could almost hear the gears turning. Then she asked the question that I knew was coming. The question that had been building inside her for 6 years. The question that kept her up at night and made her watch other families in parks with an attention that broke my heart every single time. Are you my dad? Dominic's hands were on the table. I watched his fingers curl. Not into fists. Into something that was trying to hold on to the table the way a man holds on to the edge of a cliff when the ground has given way beneath him. Yes, he said. I am your dad. And your brother's dad. And I am sorry I was not there. I am sorry I missed everything. and I am going to spend the rest of my life making sure I do not miss anything else. Marco looked up from his pancakes. You are our dad. Yes. Do you have a pool? Dominic laughed. I had not heard him laugh in 6 years. The sound hit me like a wave. It was the same laugh. The exact same laugh. The one that had made me fall in love with him in a dark restaurant 8 years ago. The laugh that was too big for his face, too uncontrolled for a man who controlled everything. The laugh that proved that underneath the empire and the fear and the name that changed temperatures, there was still a human being who could be surprised by joy. I have a pool, he said. Can we go to the pool? You can go to the pool whenever you want. Luca tugged my sleeve. Mama, is this real? Yes, baby. This is real. Sophia had not spoken since Dominic's confirmation. She was sitting very still, processing, calculating, running the information through whatever internal system she had built to make sense of a world that had, until this moment, contained a father-shaped hole that no amount of my love could fill. Then she stood up in the booth. She leaned across the table, and she did something that Dominic did not expect, and I did not expect, and nobody in that diner expected. She put her small hand on his face. She held it there. The way a person touches something they need to confirm is real. The way you touch a wall to make sure it is solid. The way a child touches a parent's face when they are memorizing it, storing it, locking it away in the place where the most important things are kept. You are real, she said. I am real, he whispered. You are not going away? I am never going away. Promise. I promise. Mama said you lived very far away. He looked at me over Sophia's hand, and in his eyes I saw the acknowledgement of what I had done and the forgiveness for why I had done it, and the promise that the distance, all of it, every mile, and every year, and every lie, was over. I did live far away, he said, but I am here now, and I am staying. Sophia removed her hand from his face. She sat back down. She picked up her fork. She took a bite of her pancakes. And then, without looking up, she said, Good. Because Marco needs someone to teach him to stop jumping off things, and Mama is not tall enough to catch him. Dominic looked at me. I looked at him, and we both laughed. At the same time, in a diner that smelled like coffee and maple syrup, surrounded by 3 children who had just met their father, we laughed the way people laugh when the thing they feared most turns out to be the thing they needed most, and the distance between those two things collapses so suddenly that the only response the body can produce is joy. That was 4 months ago. We are still figuring it out. Every day, there are arguments. There are negotiations. There are boundaries I insist on and compromises he resists, and conversations at midnight about safety in schools and whether the children should know what he does and how much and when. It is messy. It is imperfect. It is the hardest thing I have ever done. Harder than leaving, harder than hiding, harder than giving birth to triplets alone in a hospital where no one knew my real name. But every morning, Marco asks if we can go to the pool. And Luca draws pictures of a family that now has 5 people instead of 4. And Sophia watches Dominic with those dark, evaluating eyes and reports her findings to me each night at bedtime. He is serious, but he is kind, Mama. He pretends to be mean, but his eyes are soft. He looks at you the way Luca looks at his drawings. Like you are something he made and is proud of. 6 years old. 6 years old, and she sees everything. She is her father's daughter. And I am the woman who stole 6 years from a man who deserved them and is now watching him try to fit those 6 years into every single day he gets with his children, as if he can compress the time he missed into the time he has. He cannot, but he is trying, and the trying is everything. And that is my story. Every ghost, and every lie, and every morning I woke up as Marie Connolly and missed being Isabella, and every night I watched my children sleep and wondered if I had saved them or stolen something from them that I had no right to steal. If this story reached inside you and found something, if it made you think about the choices you have made out of love and out of fear and the thin, sometimes invisible line between those two things, then I need you to do something right now. Subscribe to this channel. Hit that button. Share this story with a mother who has made impossible choices. Share it with a father who is trying to make up for lost time. Share it with anyone who has ever run from something and spent years wondering if running was the right thing or just the only thing. Drop a comment and tell me, was I right to run? Was I wrong to hide them? What would you have done with 3 heartbeats inside you and a man like Dominic Russo behind you? Tell me. I read every comment. I carry every word. And the next story is already breathing. It is already alive. And I promise you, it is going to find the exact place in your chest that this one found and press even harder. Subscribe. Stay. I will see you there.